All right, if you can find your seat, welcome back. One more session before lunch, which is my favorite session. I have the pleasure of introducing our next presenter. She and I work very closely together every day, and she is a wealth of knowledge, so I encourage you, if you can, ask questions. She's amazing. We're going to talk about documentation of conflicts. This session will equip Louisiana local government employees with the skills to document workplace conflicts accurately and professionally. So building on strategies from the conflict resolution session that you just heard with Christelle, you'll learn how to properly document matters, why proper documentation matters, and what details to capture and or avoid, and how to create records that are factual, fair, and compliant with organizational and legal requirements. Ms. Tina Michelli is the Human Resources Manager for the Louisiana Legislative Auditor's Office, where she oversees human resources, policy development, performance evaluations, employee relations, and compensation. She has worked in human resources since 1990 and has been with the Auditor's Office since 2005. Tina holds both a SHRM-SCP, which is a senior certified professional in HR, and the SPHR, which is a senior professional in HR, and is a graduate of Louisiana State University with a degree in finance and a concentration in human resources. With more than 3 decades of experience, Tina brings extensive knowledge in employee relations and documentation practices that support effective conflict resolution and organizational accountability. Please welcome Ms. Tina Michelli.
Thank you, Lizzie, for making me feel so old. With Christelle a while ago, we just learned valuable strategies for recognizing, addressing, and resolving conflicts in the workplace. But even when conflicts are handled really well, there's another part of, can you hear me? Okay. There's another part of conflict that is most often forgot, and that's the documentation side. Resolution focuses on the people side, helping everybody get along and resolving all issues, but the documentation side focuses more on the process. It creates a clear factual timeline. It gives you, it also protects the employees, the supervisors, and the organization. So in this session, we're going to shift our attention to documentation. One of the things is that I'm going to address documentation most closely to conflicts today, but in the tips that I'm going to be giving you today, they can be used in all forms of documentation. One of the things, so our objectives today is going to be to understand the importance of documenting, recognize best practices, learn what to include, what to avoid, be aware of legal and organizational implications, I can't speak, and apply documentation methods to real-world examples. So while resolving conflict is the goal, proper documentation ensures accountability, clarity, and compliance if issues escalate or reoccur. So why is documentation important? Anybody? So you don't get sued. What happens is a lot of times when we have issues that arise, as time goes on, our memories fail us. We forget. Facts are not as clear. So one of the key things with documentation is whenever you need to document something, you want to do it in a timely fashion. You don't want to wait a week and then write it up. You want to do it kind of immediately. Because when you do it quickly, punctually, it protects the organization legally. We are all in the public sector, so our records can be requested as a public document. It also helps with grievances and lawsuits and EEO. It's a factual timeline of events. It ensures consistency and fairness in handling conflicts. So you don't want one conflict to handle it this way, then the other one to handle it a different way. So you want to be consistent in how you address any issues. It helps supervisors and HR track patterns and follow policies. I'm going to give y'all a silly little example in a little while, but it's just going to kind of point out to what happens. And then it also builds trust with your employees because you have that consistency, you have that I'm not doing it this way or this way depending upon who you are. So it's just a consistency in treating all employees equitably. Okay, so key principles in good documentation is be objective, not subjective. So facts versus opinions. When you're objective, you're stating facts. Facts can be verified. Opinions, usually an opinion can be argued. So make sure your records are clear, concise, and complete. Again, that they're timely. There's a professional tone you want to use. You want to avoid emotions. Sometimes it's really hard to keep your emotions out of it, but you want to make sure that you keep your emotions out. Used bias language, and then confidentiality. With any situation that you have to investigate or you have to try to resolve, is any party that's involved, you want to make sure that you let them know. You want to keep this confidential. You don't, because what happens in a lot of times when somebody starts going to tell their story across the office, it grows from something this small to maybe something this big. So you want to make sure, am I not close enough? Okay. All right, I might have to fix to the lapel. So you want to make sure that your information stays confidential and always just reiterate over and over that any type of investigation is confidential. Please don't share. Okay, so here's just some examples of some documentations. If you had to choose a document, which one would you pick? It's kind of easy, isn't it? But I can tell you there are several times I want to go, so-and-so was rude and lazy. But if you need to support your issue, you want to make sure you use all your facts. You want to answer the who, what, when, and where when needed. So again, I'm going to state that a statement or a fact, an opinion can be debated. Your facts can be verified. Okay, so documentation do's and don'ts. Here's my little funny story. Okay, we have 3 people that are our primary people. We have Sally Mae Rockstar, we have Mary Jo Punkster, and we have Jack Creeper. He's an accountant. So we have our receptionist, our auditor, and our accountant. On Halloween morning, Mary Jo walks in and she sees Sally Mae sitting at the front desk. Woe and behold, they have the same costume. They both decided to dress up as the lead singer in Kiss. Why, I don't know, but they did. Well, Mary Jo looks at her and goes, and then walks on by. Nothing else was ever said. Well, Jack Creeper was there watching and, So he's checking everything out and trying to figure out what's going on. Well, as a few days passed, the tension between these two seemed to grow. We have Mary Jo walking around the office telling people that she copied off me. Can you believe why she did that? So people just kind of brush her off. You know, it was just a coincidence. It just happened. There was a Kiss concert 2 weeks ago. It was a great idea. Well, over time, now they're in the lunchroom and they're arguing with each other. All over this costume, but multiple things are coming up. not just about the costume. Sally Mae is complaining that Mary Jo never says hello when she walks in the morning. She just walks on by and just turns her nose up. Okay, sounds kind of minor, doesn't it? But when these people start throughout the office, just yapping throughout the office about this one and that one, that's a conflict that grows seriously. And then it'll start affecting morale. It can affect the people around you and everything else. So when in this situation, the date, time, and location of the incident, when did it start? Started on Halloween when she walked through the door. I mean, it may be something that minimal. So date, time, and location, number 1. Friday, October 31st, 8 a.m., main lobby. Okay, then who were the individuals involved? Well, you want Sally Mae and Mary Jo. You want both of them, but you also have Jack Creeper, who was the witness. So you want to make sure that you talk to all 3 people, get their side of the story, what happened. Then there's also more wheres and more dates because you have a lunchroom situation. You have multiple incidences to where this conflict has started really small and has grown. You want to make sure you use people's specific names, their titles, behaviors, not assumptions. Sally Mae was mad just because she copied off Mary Jo. That's an assumption. Now, if Mary Jo states, well, I'm really ticked off at her because she heard me say that I was going to wear this and she copied off me, that's a direct quote. So when direct quotes are involved, you want to use direct quotes. And then as the investigator or the person who comes and addresses the conflict, you want to, like I said, you want to talk to everybody, go through things. If you come up with a resolution or follow-up steps, you want to make sure you document those also and then follow up with an email as discussed or as per our conversation. And you want to make notes in the file. Again, making documentation is not about tattling, not about writing up. It's a process. It's a process that helps you to remember. Same as Sally Mae and Mary Jo, things kind of laid low for a while, and then 6 months from now, things festered up again. If you have a timeline, you can easily go back and you can see the pattern if something happened or something occurred during that time frame, and you can give the whole story. So whenever you're documenting, one of the things that you want to think about is telling a story to an outside person. You know the events that occurred, you know everything that happened because of all your investigating and everything, but how do I tell it to an outside person? So you want to make sure you're factual, you have your information correct, and you're not putting in what you think. I think these two just need to put on their big boy panties and just grow up. That's an opinion. You don't need to put that in there. Okay, so like I said, things not to include though also would be assumptions, gossip, diagnosis, and personal opinions. You have Jackie in custodian work that, well, she heard. We don't want any we don't want or need hearsay. Okay, so practical tools and formats. Remember, as a state agency or as any office, you want to go back and you want to make sure you look at your policy. What does your policy say? Does your policy state that you need to use certain forms? Will your supervisor notes work? Will HR logs work? So you want to first foremost make sure you're following policy on if there's a specific form that they want. When you're following up with any type of emails or anything, always It's per our discussion, especially if you're addressing something. Per our discussion, Mary Jo, and you don't want to send it to them both in the same email. So, Mary Jo, as per our conversation, we have agreed that you will keep distance from Sally, if that's possible. But there may be another resolution to that. Let's sit down, have a conversation, talk it out, see where the issue, because I mean, if you're mad about a costume, it kind of sounds like there's another underlying issue there besides just the costume. For Louisiana specific considerations, make sure you remember about your records I can't say that word to save my life. Okay. Want to make sure for retention and anything we write can be requested as a public document. So just remember that. And even sometimes your notes can be also taken. And then digital versus public paper records. Digital is very easy. Most agencies now have gone paperless. With the paperless, I mean, you type up your email, you type up your Word document, your memo, and then you're going to store that document digitally. With digitally, you need to make sure that it is limited access, that it's only people who need the access, and then or that it's password protected. And then paper, there's still paper. We're never going to get rid of paper. But if you do write it up paper and you keep a paper file, that paper file should be in a locked drawer. Any investigation should be kept in a locked drawer, not where someone could walk into your office, open that drawer, and be nosy. Okay, I need to slow down. I'm nervous, so I'm talking fast. Okay, so we're going to do a case scenario. I'm going to ask you to get with at least one or two people, maybe turn your chair around, talk to the person in back of you, the person on the side of you. This is our scenario. Our background is we have two employees, Mark, who is a senior analyst, and Jamie, who is the project coordinator. They both work on the same audit project, and the project has a tight deadlines and tensions rise when tasks are delayed. During a team meeting, Mark publicly accuses Jamie of slowing down the entire project and being unreliable. Jamie becomes defensive and raises her voice, saying Mark doesn't understand the amount of work she's managing. The discussion escalates, disrupting the meeting. The supervisor's action of Dana is that she meets privately with both employees the same day. She gathers the accounts separately, confirms details with two witnesses, and then reviews the email records showing missed tasks and updates. Dana documents the incident objectively, identifies contributing factors, poor communication, and unclear role expectations, and records the agreed upon steps. So I want you to get with another person or a couple people and talk about what documentation would you do? How would you write it up? Okay, is everyone finished? Okay, do we have any volunteers who would like to kind of tell us how they would document?
It's karaoke time, everyone. Come on, somebody step up. We want to hear how you guys would document, what your thoughts are in your organization especially.
I mean, to just tell me just one thing, what would you document? Wait, hang on one second. The missed task, date and time. Okay, we've got a brave candidate here.
We decided that we would do a digital and a paper documentation, and it'll be an incident report stating the date and time, the parties, what occurred, and also detailing their job descriptions and what has been worked on thus far, and then in the end, documenting a possible solution to it.
Great answer. Anybody else want to add to that?
I think we had someone over here. Someone over here? No? You don't make eye contact with her and she won't bring you the microphone.
She's got a microphone. Hide.
I believe it should be more of an internal documentation, not like going to HR or anything like that. I think, conflict resolution can be worked out with communication. Mm-hmm. And in a small office, I don't believe that, once the expectation is known, I think everybody will get on board in order to complete the task.
Okay, she brought up a good subject. Okay, when do I go to HR? Do I go to HR immediately? Is it something that maybe we, as a group, if it's occurred on your audit team or your work site, do we discuss it and try and work it out there? Do you immediately bring it to HR? Is the incident big enough to even document? If you look, I use my example, Mary Jo and Sally Mae. Okay, she walked through and, do I really want to document that? Not really, because, it was a minor incident. Hopefully, they get over their little tiff, and then they move on. But when it starts escalating, that they're arguing in the lunchrooms or they're talking to Lee here about, can you believe she did that to me? I just needs to be fired. And she did it on purpose, yeah. So it's still minor, but where does it turn into something that you need to write up?
Hey, Tina, I just wanted to mention that for public bodies, we just always need to be mindful that there's a presumption that everything that is in writing is a public record. So there's power in choosing what to write and when to write it, because if anybody asks, unless there's some exception you can point to, you're going to have to disclose everything that's in there.
Correct. Our public record. It gets to where you walk that fine line sometimes. Is this really need something that needs to be escalated? Or is this something that we can address as our group? Again, if you still, as a supervisor, if you are addressing it as a group or you're addressing it with that individual, I would follow up with an email. As discussed, these are the solutions or these are the things that we decided on. And because you don't want to just leave it hanging and then something happens and we turn into a he said, she said, well, Lee never told me to do that. You're just imagining things. So you want to, again, as public entities, we are locked in with laws. So for public records. Any more? Okay, I'm going to give you kind of my examples here. Okay, this is poor documentation. Mark and Jamie got into an argument during the meeting. Mark was rude, Jamie got upset. They both need to get along better. Me as a supervisor, I just told them, y'all need to work this out. Come on, y'all, grow up, work it out. In some cases, people can't work it out. As Christelle said earlier, you have your accommodating person, you have the different personalities that when they're sitting there trying to work things out, it just creates a bigger mess. Sometimes they need that third party to just step in and say, hey, let's talk this through. But again, as a supervisor, there's many times as an HR person that I just want to say, would y'all just work it out? Come on, grow up. But unfortunately, what we think and what other individuals think are two different things. Okay, this is effective documentation. Okay, the incident summary is that The who, what, when, and where. When did it happen? It happened at 9 a.m. at the project status meeting. Who was involved? We have Mark Smith, who was a senior analyst, and Jamie Lee, who's a project coordinator. We have a direct quote. Jamie's delays are holding us up again. And then Jamie Lee responded, that's not true. You keep changing deadlines. So obviously you see the conflict there between the two of them. One is think that that they're delaying it. The other one thinks, well, you keep changing everything on me. You draw a line here in the sand, and next thing I know, you're moving it way up here. How do you expect me to follow what you want me to do? So it can very well get escalated. Facts collected, there was 2 witnesses, took statements from both the witnesses. I'm going to walk off the stage. We have email records. They went in and they researched. They looked up email records where the project had been delayed, why the project had been delayed each time, missing updates. Prior to this, neither one have any documentation of any type of conflict. So if you look at this situation, here we go, I'm going to put my opinion in it, is that, you know, they're under a tight deadline, they're both working really hard, they're both tired, they're under a lot of stress. That's my opinion. That has nowhere in this. It goes nowhere. So as a supervisor, I did private meetings individually with each of them. Both acknowledged that their interaction was unprofessional and agreed to direct communication protocols and project updates. And then a joint meeting will be held later. As the person writing the statement or writing the incident, you need to make sure you use your name, title, date, and timestamp it. The timestamp at the top is when it occurred, and then you want to timestamp it to when you wrote it. Why is that important? That's important because if you wait 2 weeks to come back and write this up, I'm busy, I don't have time, we're trying to get this project written up, some of those facts can go away. So I may not have everything the way I need it. Being a little nervous, I talked a little fast earlier, so I'm going to go back a couple slides and just make sure that I cover to why documentation matters. It's a factual timeline is one of the biggest things that you need to make sure of, is that it's stating exactly what happened, when it happened, how many times did it happen. If it's a one-time occurrence, you don't want to make a big deal out of something. It's just, let's have a discussion, sit down, talk about it, and if it resolves, then it's resolved, and that's the end of it. The same way, just to flip on documentation for performance issues or things like that. If you have a performance issue and you talk to that person about that performance issue, if they correct their behavior, you don't need to put it in their annual evaluation. It was addressed, it was corrected, it's done. The same way with conflict. If it's a one-time situation that you've discussed it, the action has been corrected, you don't need to keep drawing it out. Does that make sense, everyone?
Tina, I do have some online questions if you're open to taking
Yes.
those. Okay, the first one is, who should document when the supervisor may be the issue?
Okay, good question. With a lot of things, if it's your supervisor, all employees have to have a way out. So if it is your supervisor who is creating the issue, you have to have a way out. You can go to their supervisor and say, hey, this is going on. If it's a manager, go to their director, or you can talk it with them. Or if you don't feel comfortable, you can always go to HR. Remember, HR is always a safe haven that we're there to protect both the employee and the organization.
I have additional questions. When is it time to stop a performance improvement plan?
Okay, let's flip subjects. Okay, a performance improvement plan is usually written whenever you write a performance improvement plan. It's written for a time frame. So if you have a 60 or 90-day time frame when you write your performance improvement plan, if at all possible, you want to give that individual the full 90 days to complete that performance improvement plan. Because if not, they can come back on to you and say, you didn't give me ample time to try and change. So with the performance improvement plans, depending upon how long you write it for, is how long you want to keep it going. Now, once the performance improvement plan is done, if you've met the 90 days and you see some improvement, but not the improvement that you want, you can extend it. Or at that time, you can choose that you're not where you need to be.
Is there a quick way to document, perhaps coming back to it, like maybe emailing yourself a summary and then coming back to it?
Yes. Same way with performance. Well, since we're on the subject of both, I write myself notes. So I will shorthand something and put myself notes, and then when I have a moment, I'll go back and write it. Now again, you want to stick as closely as you can to that time to when the incident occurred. You don't want to write yourself notes and then go a month or two and then come back, oh, I forgot to do that, let me document this. Because you still want it fresh enough in your mind that if you wrote a note and you're like, if you're like me, when you're writing notes, sometimes you're like, what is that? So you want to make sure that your memory is still well enough that, oh, okay, I remember that now, and you can type it up.
You may have just answered this question, but the next question is, what is the difference between when should documentation begin? At the first sign of tension or after it escalates?
Again, that is, I hate to say it, but it's a judgment call because you know your employees better than anyone else. So when you have two employees and there's friction, is this something that occurs often? Is this something that just happened this one time? Because again, you're under a lot of stress, you have deadlines, people are breathing down your neck, where's this, where's that? So, Lizzie, why are you doing this to me? And I snap at her. Okay, is this one time or did it escalate? Did Lizzie close my door and start screaming and hollering at me to where the people on the other side of the door are listening? So what is the severity of it? How often does it occur? Do you feel that it's a one-time event? If you feel that it's a one-time event, then no documentation. I wouldn't document. If you don't feel like it's a one-time event or you feel like this is something that's going to happen again once you talk to your individuals, then you can make your self-notes. Again, as it was said, though, sometimes your notes can be requested as a public document, but you can write yourself notes that, hey, this occurred. And when you're writing yourself notes, include the date, the time, who was there, what happened, and then stick it in a file and keep your file.
You can tell me to stop whenever you're ready for the questions to end. What's the difference between documenting a behavioral issue and a performance issue?
Behavioral issues are a lot harder than performance issues. Performance issues are performance-based. What does your job description say? What are your expectations? Is this person doing what is expected of them? Are they not meeting deadlines? Do they understand the work? So performance is strictly related on performance issues. Behavioral turns to the hard stuff, attitude. How do you say someone has a bad attitude? That's a very, very general statement. So you would need to write it out. Lizzie has a bad attitude. And then this is the case, you can say, I feel that Lizzie has a bad attitude because she aggressively attacks people or whatever. But you have to think, you can't use generalized statements. You need to make sure they're more specific to what was the incident. Lizzie shut my door and started screaming at me. Then the people on the other side of the door, I want to make sure that I get their statements. Now, if it was between me and Lizzie, naturally, I'm not going to be the one documenting the incidents. I am going to have to get someone else to step in and document the incident.
This is a good follow-up to that. How can supervisors avoid letting personal emotions or bias influence documentation?
Hard. Again, like I said earlier, one of the things that you want to do is when you're writing documentation is you're telling someone else what happened. So I need to explain to Lee about the incident that we had a little while ago, that we have 2 individuals who are under a lot of pressure, they're missing deadlines, so I need to tell the story as factual as I can, and that's one of the easiest ways to do it is stick to facts. If you stick to facts, then you're not putting your emotion into it. And then another thing too is also fact can be verified. Opinion can usually be debated or argued. And
should the employee be informed when documentation is being added to their personnel file?
they do not have to be, no. But if it is something that you've investigated and they've been part of an investigation and you've followed up and you have follow-up, I would tell them that it's out of a courtesy that we are putting a memo in your file.
I have two more questions.
Okay.
Sorry, maybe more, because they're coming in. How, and this may be a little out of the realm, but how can teams rebuild trust after a documented conflict?
Anybody has any?
Yeah, this might be a good opportunity
This is a good
for
opportunity
sharing
to
an
share
experience.
if you have experience on anything. Anyone?
I know some of y'all got some experiences.
Team outings.
Team outings.
Yeah. As a supervisor, you might want to buy a pizza and have a sit-down lunch. Just building trust back with your group or with your individuals sometimes takes time. Sometimes it may never be built back. If there's an option, if the trust is not there and the people aren't working well together, then sometimes you may look after having to move one of those people to another team. So it may be something that can be built over time and something that may not be able to. But the easiest thing, I guess the best answer to that question would be time. Let me
Go ahead.
Okay, so your documentation checklist, before you finalize your documentation, ask yourself, have I included the who, what, when, and where? Are these facts or opinions? Again, what I'm saying, can it be debated? Can someone come back and give me something that, well, so-and-so said, or is it a fact? What can prove facts are direct quotes, timelines, that this happened at such and such time, these people were involved, your witness statements. So all those things can prove that it's facts. Have you noted any actions or follow-ups? Is the tone neutral and professional? And then, is it stored securely per policy? If you can check all these boxes, then you've documented very well. And you can move forward with, like I said, again, you have to determine when does it go to HR. Is it a one-time occurrence, or is it something that you feel that has been resolved? If you feel that it's been resolved, you keep your notes. If it reoccurs or something happens further down the line, it could be a pattern between certain individuals that you want to show the pattern. Okay, so documentation done correctly can ensure fairness. It can protect the employee and the organization and support conflict resolution. Okay, Lizzie, you got more questions? And anyone here have any questions?
Should HR provide templates, or is it best to be organic when documenting?
We, in our office, we have some templates for some investigations. Unfortunately, not everything will follow that template just as you hope it would. But it's really, again, that's where I said earlier, look at your agency's policies, procedures, and there may be something that you could work up a form for. We have, in our office, we have an investigation procedure. So we list out whenever we're investigating something, we have what procedures we have to follow or what we should follow, steps that we should take. The fact that anytime you're, if it's serious enough, is that you have more than one person in the office with you when you're talking to the other person. So those are some things that you might want to look at as office policy before saying, yes, a form is better, or no, it's not.
How can leaders foster a culture where documentation is seen as helpful rather than punitive?
Documentation should not be used as an I got you. Documentation is part of a process. So in that process, like I said, you're getting your facts, you're having your facts there. The way leadership supports it is that they don't use the documents as an I got you. They don't want you to document everything and anything. But however, when it is used, that they use it as part of the process. It's part of the investigation. They look at the documentation and say, okay, this, and happened. Okay, I could see how this has happened. This is what we need to do to go forward. So again, it's tone at top, it's from top down. That's it.
We have another question.
What do you do if you have two witnesses? You find them both credible, but one is trying to stay anonymous because they're afraid of how it will affect them personally.
Whenever you're talking to witnesses or whenever you're doing an investigation, a lot of times not all parties know who all is involved. So if they want to, staying anonymous, as long as it stops at a certain point, that's good. They can stay anonymous, but depending upon how far it escalates, their name may come out. That's the same as if someone walks into your office as, I need to tell you something, but I want this to be off the record. Whenever you are dealing with an employee issue or a work issue or anything like that, unfortunately, as being part of HR, nothing is really off the record.
Any questions? Good.
Okay, I think they're going to do a drawing right before lunch.
Everyone get your ticket out.
And then we'll release y'all a couple minutes early for lunch.